Summary of the last self-help book you'll ever need. Repress your anger, think negatively, be a good blamer, and throttle your inner child. By Paul Pearsall. Who put the pop in pop psychology? Do you think you're worthless? Do you need more self-esteem? Must you love yourself before you can love someone else? Are guilt and worry harmful? If you've ever felt that the standard self-help book's version of happiness and fulfillment defines a hopeless goal, good for you. You're developing the contrarian consciousness that leads to greater well-being. 19th-century Freudian views still shape pop psychology's general principles. Today's self-help books rarely think twice about set ideas on childhood's supposedly powerful influence over adult behavior, or question whether emotions actually do build up steam until they are released. Yet, it should challenge these notions and more. As self-help booms, the science it used to depend upon has become less important. Today, academic psychology focuses on more narrow, pathological subjects, while ordinary people listen to celebrity gurus and TV show hosts. Such advisors use modern media and marketing to sell advice that may not fit you. Self-help is an industry, so buyer beware. Kick the tires before you buy into it. Not just one good life. There's not just one good life, so quit looking for it. Search for a good life instead. You cannot cure discontentment by consuming more of anything, even ideas. Avoid being a compliant thinker who takes things at face value or accepts what feels right without thorough evaluation. Rigorously challenge self-help ideas by applying scientific reasoning, characterized by skepticism. Exercise creative thinking to adapt self-helps concepts to align with your intuition and experience. Perhaps the sheer volume of self-help titles leads people to believe they really need help. For a long time, the trend in self-help has been to focus on self-improvement to gain happiness. This has fostered more than one me generation. Self-helpism has encouraged a degree of self-absorption that can magnify your problems until they feel unmanageable. As an alternative, pursue the 7 attributes of a healthy personality. 1. Be a skeptic. 2. Be willing to deceive yourself, especially in favor of your loved ones. 3. Embrace the craziness that is your family. 4. Workaholism is not necessarily bad for you, if you're doing something you love. 5. Obsessing about your health isn't good for your health. 6. Realize it's impossible to stay forever young and get on with the rest of your life. 7. Death is not the enemy, it's just another part of life. Deal with it instead of trying to ignore it. Unleash your inner skeptic. Just because self-help advice sounds right, doesn't mean it is. Sometimes the quick answer is wrong. Be contrary and analytical, don't get swept along by ideas that seem intuitively okay. Life's problems arrive in clusters, but single-issue self-help books isolate one problem from all the other factors that may influence it. See if research backs up an author's claims. Be skeptical of titles that distill essential life wisdom into a few rules. Solicit contrary perspectives to boost your inner skeptic. People, even psychotherapists, have biases they are reluctant to change. For instance, people share a hidden bias toward believing something simply because it is written down or because the writer claims some expertise. Beware of gullibility. Is it good to have only a positive attitude? Is it healthy to cling to high self-regard despite setbacks? Without the ability to be self-critical, how can we know what to attempt to improve? High self-esteem has long been the sacred cow of the self-help religion. By contrast, guilt and shame have become the villains. But people who consider only their own self-interests, without conscience, lead irresponsible lives. Often doubt, depression, guilt and shame spur people to change for the better. Self-help's emphasis on hope and a positive attitude wrap people so tightly in future goals that they miss the present moment. Perhaps self-help's compulsive search for happiness suppresses the negative aspects of life, even when they are crucial to personal growth. Self-help philosophy contends that people harbor the potential for uncontrollable addiction to chocolate, TV, alcohol or almost anything. But research indicates that addiction is usually the result of a set of factors, that is, a total environment, Not just genetic disposition, low self-esteem, a difficult childhood, or negative thinking. Use mindfulness to engage fully in your life. Instead of chasing self-improvement, set a different goal, enjoying your life. When you are mindful, you control your attention. Do not allow the loudest or most imposing stimuli to claim it. Peace of mind comes from thoughtful awareness of your situation, relationships, reactions, and emotions. Savor every aspect of the present instead of seeking happiness in the future. Rule for the right kind of self-help. To take a fresh approach, consider the 10 contrary commandments of self-help. 1. Instead of loving yourself before loving others, love others to be love-worthy. 2. Instead of obsessing about the power of positive thought, glean the insight and authenticity that comes from being mindfully aware of your full range of emotions. 3. Instead of clinging blindly to hope, give natural feelings of doubt and hopelessness the chance to inform your true view of the world. 4. Instead of trying to be a superversion of yourself, build on your strengths, minimize your weaknesses and count your blessings. Drop trying to be all you can be unless you're joining the military. Hold a little energy back, you might need it. 5. Consider the values of creative codependence. 6. Instead of never giving up, think about what might happen if you let go or give in. Sometimes it makes sense to relax from constant striving. 7. Instead of constantly reviewing your feelings, attend to the feelings of others. Expressing emotion is not always the best policy. 8. Forget about loving unconditionally. Love as you wish to be loved. 9. Self-delusion may be beneficial. Savor the calmness afforded by enlightened denial. 10. Keep back your anger. Anger poured out begets more anger. While you're discarding old ideas, forget about what goes around comes around. Not necessarily, sometimes, jerks triumph. Life is like that. And stop trying to retrieve repressed memories. That's an out-of-date Freudianism. Love smart. If you think you've fallen in love, get up. Half of marriages end in divorce. Self-help's contribution to this appalling statistic could be the constant exhortation to keep trying to maximize yourself. That doesn't leave time for strengthening relationships. Often, self-help encourages self-absorption that perpetuates immaturity, and sets divorce up as just another experience on the road to self-discovery. Staying together for the kids' sake may sound old-fashioned, but consider it in light of new knowledge about how divorce hurts kids and adults. Love is not something to be acquired, it is a deliberate decision that requires adapting as life proceeds. Even things that make us happy can, after a while, bore us. Lasting love involves the mind as much as the heart. Marriage is a long-term, beneficial proposition. A decision to build a partnership. Self-help law is full of advice on how to get what you want from love and marriage, but not much on how to contribute to and sustain a lifelong relationship. Shared interests and compatibility are a more reliable basis for a marriage than initial passion. Instead of looking for the right person, become more love-worthy. Add a healthy dose of delusion to your view of your partner. It is mindful to see your mate in the best possible light. Your crazy family. Who hasn't thought wistfully about running away from their crackpot family? Despite the ingrained belief that childhood exerts a huge influence over adult psychological makeup, it turns out that 50% of personality is genetic. Beyond that, unless you were parented with consistent abuse, how you were raised has little influence on your adult life. Parent has become a verb, not a noun, a set of skills. But instead of falling into the trap of constantly striving for happiness or self-expression, parents should teach their kids to savor the life they are living together. Children need you to be the best parent you can, and to provide a positive model for family life instead of dishing up constant, potential growth-enhancing activities. What's the measure of your success? Trying to attain ever more success just keeps you on a treadmill of discontent. Many times work becomes the way people try to find themselves instead of seeking bonds with others and a shared life. But, if you view your work as a way to connect with people, maybe being a workaholic is actually good for you. Don't bother with time management, it'll just drive you nuts. Work on attention management instead. Perfect balance doesn't exist in nature, so don't knock yourself out trying to arrange a perfectly balanced life. It's an impossible dream. Mindfulness can help you enjoy the moment you are in, instead of running around wishing you had more time or different moments. Make all the time you have quality time. Stop the worry. Under the influence of today's healthcare system, people tend to define health as the absence of illness. But some illnesses are needed and may be components of health. Self-help books often lead people to dabble in alternative medicine. Too frequently, the alternative gurus mix and match from several ancient healing systems. Only rarely are they medically trained. Taken with a grain of salt, they usually cause no harm, but they can have devastating effects when practiced with slavish devotion. The best thing to do for your health is focus on the things that feel right in your life, the pleasure of seeing people act kindly, the way you lose track of time when you do work you like, and connections to your family and community. Feeling down or grieved sometimes is only natural. Depression is not necessarily a mental illness. Sometimes life is sad. Whether you go through adversity or elation, eventually your mood resolves to its usual state, according to your innate disposition. If you're worried that aging will lead to worse health, the two are not necessarily related. The aches of age remind you to savor your extra time alive. Throw away the books about staying perpetually young and seek out zestful seniors who enjoy life with grace and wisdom. Aging is not an illness. By intentionally ignoring the subject of death, people trigger the ironic monitoring process in their subconscious minds. This process keeps checking to make sure we are not thinking about death and, thus, inadvertently keeps reintroducing the subject. People try to shut it out, but it keeps coming back. To overcome trenchant fears of death, confront them. Self-help depends upon the illusion of separate selves, but nature teaches that boundaries don't exist. Life progresses in a continuum, not in stages. You are not waiting in the wings. Life is not a trial run. Death gets its horror from the idea that it is a dreadful, final boundary, separating us from life, when it is actually a part of it. Concentrating on living mindfully, creating loving relationships and sharing memories is our portion of immortality. Recollecting loved ones who have died ensures that they always have a place in your life. To live mindfully, develop behaviors that lead to a sense of well-being, such as attending to the needs of others instead of focusing solely on your own needs. Being politely amiable instead of solely self-promoting. Controlling your emotions instead of letting them rule any given situation. Remaining open to others. Trying to be aware of what others wish of you and your behavior, and try to meet their expectations. By living with mindfulness, you share your world with others. This gives you the chance to find true depth of meaning and happiness.